Donny Moss in the kitchen with Tofu Piccata. This is very exciting. Take it away, Donny.
Hey, Jane. I'm making tofu piccata. I've got my tofu from Trader Joe's. It's super firm. I'm unpacking it from this from the packaging.
Can we see it up close? Because I want to see what super firm looks like.
Sorry. Yeah. So I'm sorry. I meant to hold it up. Super firm tofu from Trader Joe's.
Yes.
And so I've got my block. I'm going to chop it up here into cubes and dry it out in there. Wrap it in towels and dry it out in the refrigerator. So this will take me 10 more seconds.
Why do you have to dry it out?
It just it becomes firmer when you remove the water. Just the sauce sticks to it better. I've got these flour sacks. I don't think I need to get closer than that, from Williams-Sonoma, or from you probably get them anywhere if you Google flour sack. I dry everything in these. So I'm going to take this tofu. I'm going to put it in the flour sack, wrap it up, and put it in the fridge.
I've never heard of this. What's going on? This isn't crazy. Flour sack. I've been making tofu for, I don't want to even admit how long. Go ahead, continue on.
I dry lettuce in flour sacks. I dry everything in this because you don't want to serve your food moist unless it's intended to be. Sorry, I said that word, by the way. Anyway, I'm gonna chop. So for tofu piccata, it's going to be onions and garlic, and lemon and parsley and capers and tofu. So I'm just going to chop up some onion, cut the top, and then I don't know if you can see, I cut through the side there. So then it comes out in it's called a brunoise.
Look at you go. When are you opening your restaurant?
I'm going to open a restaurant this afternoon. Funny that you said that. So I've got my onions. I've got some garlic.
Take that whole tray and bring it up to us so we can see exactly what's in there.
Okay,
so,
1 second.
Okay.
Let me put my knife down so I don't cut myself.
Okay, here we go.
We've got, I'm sorry. So we've got some parsley. Some of it's chopped already. So that
there we go.
Hold on. Let me take this out. 1 second. I've got some minced garlic that I did right before we started. Some minced parsley. And a lemon, obviously, and now chopped onions. So I'm going to move this whole tray off. I'm going to turn the stove on. I'm going to get those onions sauteing now, because that'll take a few minutes. So I've got some high heat sunflower oil. I'm never sure which kinds of oil to buy. I just know that I buy ones that say high heat when I'm sauteing, because I assume that that's less unhealthy. So let me do that.
You're looking very thin, Donny. You are in great shape.
Plant-based, Jane. This Labor Day, which is coming up in a couple weeks, will be my 15-year anniversary of going on a plant-based diet. And I feel like, I know this sounds crazy because when we age, we're supposed to feel less good, but I feel like I feel healthier and healthier every year. I am so grateful that I learned about this and that I did it 15 years ago.
Congratulations!
My only regret was that I didn't do it sooner.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody who makes the switch to a plant-based diet says the same thing. So this oil feels like it's getting hot quickly. I'm going to take this chopped onion. It's already sizzling. I quite honestly don't know how that happened so quickly because I just put the oil in 1 second ago.
I can hear the sizzle.
And can you see it in the pan at all?
Yeah, I mean, sure. It's sizzling onions. Yeah, beautiful. There we go. Yeah, lovely, lovely.
And
what is piccata? What is piccata?
Piccata. Well, there's this. The piccata is like a lemon caper sauce.
Oh.
And probably some butter. Maybe I'll throw some Miyoko's butter in there too. So
do it. Go for it.
Onions are sautéing. I'm going to grab the tofu that I wrapped in the flour sack. I did some earlier. So this has been drying for a couple hours in the fridge. I'm going to add this and let this saute with the onions. Try not to make such a mess while I do it. Okay.
I don't know if this is your friend, but Brad Kelly says, could this woman be more obnoxious? Shut the hell up.
Who's he saying that about?
Me? I would assume I'm the only woman here. I love it. I don't care. Now, what did you just do? Can you show us?
So I just added the tofu to this oil, this hot oil, and the onions. I'm going to saute the tofu and onions at the same time. I want the tofu to become a little bit golden brown on each side. And you know, you could get even more creative if you feel like spending a few more minutes doing it and dredge it in flour. But I wanted to do something quick for lunch today because it's 3:30 on the East Coast, and you know, Jane, I'm hungry. So, so I've got this tofu sauteing with these onions. And in the meantime, I'm going to cut this lemon and get ready to squeeze that. And I'm going to throw some capers in and saute those as well, because obviously they're going to be better fried.
Well, this is what I see as the unique aspect of this recipe is that you've got the capers. The capers give it a distinctive flavor, hence the piccata.
Yes, they're really strong. I mean, you really have to like capers. Jane, they're stuck in the bottle. I can't get them out. Oh, here they go. Okay. So now you hear the caper sizzling, the tofu, the onions, and that just all needs to fry for a few minutes. When I feel like the tofu is a little bit golden brown on at least a few of the sides, and the capers and onions are fried, I'm going to add some vegetable broth and some lemon and some parsley and garlic. I don't want to put the garlic in too soon because it burns quickly. So I'm going to leave that out for a few more minutes.
What about the broth? I don't really understand that. You have the oil, you have the capers. What does the broth accomplish, and what kind of broth?
So this is just a Pacific Foods vegetable broth that I don't even remember where I bought it, and the reason, because I find that I need more moisture in the pan after I do the sautéing. I'm not quite ready for the dish to be done yet. So I add in the broth and let it cook down. And the capers and the onions and the garlic continue to cook in the hot broth. And then I squeeze in the lemon and throw in the parsley. I'm also going to throw in a little bit of Miyoko's butter to make it a little bit richer. So if I can find it. Here it is. So I've got my Miyoko's butter that I buy at Trader Joe's for like $5. I think that's the least expensive place to buy it, at least that I've seen. So I'll throw some in there with the broth in a few minutes. So the tofu is beginning to get a little golden. It might be hard to see that. I'll show it in a couple minutes. Yeah, I'm just going to let that continue cooking.
So tell me about Miyoko's butter, because this woman is a genius, and her whole vegan line of cheeses and butters are just taking the world by storm. What's so great about it?
Miyoko's butter is so rich and delicious that, you know, I've served it to people in the past before they knew I was vegan, and they had no idea that they were eating a plant-based butter. And when you think about it, Jane, you know, butter, yogurt, cheese, all of these things can be made with other kinds of milks. It doesn't have to be dairy. It doesn't have to be cow's milk or goat's milk or sheep's milk. Why not just use, coconut milk or soy milk or almond milk? So Miyoko's uses, I can't read the ingredients because the words are too small. But wait, I have my glasses, so hold on. So, it's cashew milk. It's coconut oil and cashew milk. So we know that nuts can be rich and delicious too. We just don't need to use bovine mammary secretions to make the foods we eat anymore. And Miyoko's is one company that has demonstrated that you can make food that's just as tasty, if not more tasty, with plant-based alternatives.
We've got a really important question here from Nathan Semmel. Do you deliver to the Upper West Side?
I don't like Nathan Semmel very much. But if he knows of someone else on the Upper West Side, then I would be happy to deliver. In the meantime, Nathan Semmel, along with several other activists in New York, recently scored a major victory. They got a major sporting goods store in New York City, an iconic sporting goods store called Paragon, to agree to stop selling fur when they run out of their current inventory. This was a really important multi-year campaign, Jane, and I'd love for you to talk to them another time about this campaign, because it's such a great lesson for advocates around the country that, what local activists can do. If they put their minds to it.
I'd like to say, even though this is a cooking show, that Donny Moss and his team, including Nathan Semmel, another great activist in New York, and there are so many, I wouldn't mention anymore because I'd leave somebody out. They accomplish huge, huge victories. And I feel like you've been very influential in putting, for example, I block it out of my mind, the name, because it's so unpleasant to me. I call it the contrarian indicator, the coat that people have to wear, Canada Goose, to show that they can afford a coat because they're so socially insecure. But they're on the defensive now. They are really, after ignoring animal activists for years, they're now sort of backpedaling a little bit. What's happening?
Oh, yeah. So, Jane, I'm just going to take
general.
So we're just here. Let me just pull out a piece. So the tofu is starting to get golden brown. And I'm going to add this garlic and let that saute for just, and I've already threw in some Miyokos. I don't measure anything here. This is just vegan comfort food. It's not the kind of recipe that requires exact measurements. If it was, I probably wouldn't do it because I wouldn't have the energy for it. And so I'm going to let that garlic saute for literally just a minute or so. I can already smell it. I can already smell the garlic, which means it's time to add some of the vegetable stock so this garlic doesn't burn. And thankfully, the tofu is starting to get golden brown, which is what I wanted.
Now, we have a serious question here. Did you use the whole bottle of capers?
No, I didn't, but for no particular reason. You could see I used, you could see I used maybe 3/4 of it or 2/3 of it. I could have used the whole thing. I was just so busy yapping with Jane that I wasn't paying attention to how much I put in. So now I'm just going to put in a little bit of the vegetable stock and let it cook down. Oh, Jane, this smells so good. Anytime you fry capers, it just smells so good. And I'm going to also add some lemon now. Should I just show you the pot, what it looks like now?
Yeah, show us the pot.
That was too hot. Okay, so can you see? I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
So,
I'm starving. I would love to have that.
So the vegetable stock cooked down really quickly. So I might add more. But in the meantime, I'm going to add some lemon in here. I'm going to squeeze it over on top of this so that
the pits, the seeds. Yeah.
So you can't go wrong with lemon juice either, right? I mean, it just adds so much flavor. So I'm going to squeeze a whole lemon in there. And
would this be good to put over, let's say, a bed of rice or something like that?
A bed of rice, a bed of spinach, any vegetable. This goes with anything. This is really just delicious comfort food. Okay. All right. Oh, now I can really smell the lemon.
And
wow. You can see the tofu getting golden.
Oh yeah, look at that. Wow.
Oh, I wish there was technology, Jane. Maybe you can put this on your to-do list so that viewers would be able to smell what's being cooked.
I mean, look, I had been cooking at home to a large degree during the pandemic, although I do donate to support and feed so that we can keep some of the vegan restaurants open in New York, LA, and Philadelphia. I urge everyone to donate to support and feed because your donation keeps the vegan restaurants open and feeds people who are hungry during this very, very surreal time. And so we need to all really start eating healthy to stay healthy, so that we can, while isolating, make sure that we're least likely to suffer the worst effects, and we can hopefully all get through this without getting ill. It's tragic what's happening. I mean, every day, what is it, 162,000? I can't keep up.
I mean, I think, Jane, I saw in the news that like 1,500 people died yesterday. It's such an outrage and so preventable. So we obviously have to take the same precautions as everybody else by wearing masks and social distancing and staying out of crowds. But I do feel like anyone who lives a healthy lifestyle will have a leg up.
Yes.
And so not that I'm necessarily promoting tofu, fried tofu as the healthiest of dishes. It's not, because, you know, you're frying in oil. It's comfort food. But we can do this and still stay thin and feel healthy.
You look marvelous. And I want to tell everybody that Donny was my inspiration for giving sugar up one day at a time. December 28th, when he and his man, Jim, came out to LA and we had dinner. And I said, Donny, you look incredible. And he said, well, I gave up processed sugar, so I'm still eating dates and stevia and monk fruit, which is 0 calories and no increase in your glycemic index. But you've really inspired me, Donny. So I really always, I kind of do what Donny does. I do. I imitate you.
I imitate you too. I've tried that. Was it green algae?
Yeah.
So we're imitating each other. We're going to drive ourselves into the ground.
And everybody who knows us. And at the end of this, I'm going to do my coronavirus concoction. So stay tuned for that. So
we're done. We're done. I'm going to add some parsley.
Oh.
Let me show it to you before the parsley. So you can see in the pan here.
Yeah.
We've got the tofu, the fried tofu with a red onion. That's what I happen to have in the fridge. Capers, lemon, the vegetable stock, garlic. Did I say that? And now I'm going to add some fresh parsley and toss it all together. And
now you could do this with veggies, right? You could do these if you wanted broccoli or peas or whatever.
Capers and lemon and onions and garlic go with anything. Absolutely. Or, you know, the reason people, I think, a lot of vegans in New York know seitan piccata because it was a signature dish of a restaurant that no longer exists called Candle 79.
Oh.
And that was their, like, people came from everywhere to have their
seitan. I used to love it.
And so I would make it at home. It wouldn't be half as good, but I would make it at home. And now I just thought, let me try something different. Let me do it with tofu. And here, I'll scoop it onto a plate, and you can see what this.
Well, take a bite too. Once you scoop it on the plate, show us a tight shot, and then take a bite.
Should I have Jim come do a taste test?
Yeah, come on, Jim.
Is he even home? Hey, Jim. Oh, I think he left me. He's not here.
He left you permanently, or just for lunch?
We got on this live stream, and he literally tiptoed out of the apartment and left. But who can blame him? We sound nuts. Okay, so here we go. Let me the fire off. Okay.
Okay. Let's see here.
So I seasoned. I didn't even add any salt.
Higher. Yeah, they were right in there. Right, higher. There we go. Look at that. Oh my God.
So salty that I didn't add salt, even though I normally would.
All right.
I'm like 90% sure I'm going to burn the top of my mouth, and it's going to peel off later. But anything for Jane Unchained. Okay, here we go. Oh my God, it's better than I expected. I'm trying hard not to spit it out because it's so hot. Who's ever watching this show, try this at home. You saw how quickly I cobbled this together.
I'm ordering capers because I'm doing Instacart now. I don't think I'll ever go into a grocery store again. But see, I don't have capers. I'm going to get capers. That is the key, obviously, because all the other stuff, lemon juice and onions and garlic, that's pretty, it's very simple. This is a very simple recipe. Let me say to folks at home, it's super important to have extra firm tofu, right? People buy the wrong consistency and then they complain. Explain.
And it's also important to cut it and dry it out and put it in the fridge because it firms up even more. Look, there are rolls for like softer tofus. I make a vegan Caesar salad dressing that I found on Bon Appetit, and it calls for silken tofu, and you put it in the blender with all the other ingredients, and it's delicious. But if you're making tofu as a plant-based meat alternative, then you really probably want to buy the firmer, extra firm tofu. And
we've got some more information from Brad. He says he's no longer upset that I'm loud and obnoxious. He embraces it. But he says, here's the thing that Donny is illustrating. I'm a foodie. I love to cook and get flavor out of my ingredients. Most of my foodie friends can't believe I'm vegan, but I'm vegan now in part because I'm a foodie. This is the best way to cook and extract flavor from food. I couldn't have said it better, Brad.
You know, it's interesting. When I first went vegan 15 years ago, I can't believe I'm eating on live my mouth open with parsley falling out. But when I first went vegan, I did it purely for ethical reasons. I saw videos that were so upsetting that I literally overnight I did it. I said, I'm never eating an animal product again. That was 15 years ago. I didn't realize at the time that making the switch to a plant-based diet would be an upgrade to my diet. That this is it's a more interesting and exciting way to eat than falling back on like dead animal flesh, which is, has been normalized in our culture. And so our food is so much richer and more delicious and more interesting than the food that I ate before. And for the people who can't give up all the things that they ate before, the plant-based alternatives now that didn't exist 15 years ago are awesome, right? Like a Beyond Burger and the Miyoko's cheeses and the Tree Line. I mean, there's so many delicious cheese and yogurt and butter and meat, chicken, seafood alternatives.
Yeah.
So if you want to continue to eat that way, you can.
I was watching a cable news channel, business channel. A woman said, I think it was the Impossible pork, a vegan pork. She did a taste test. She wasn't a vegan. She was a journalist. And not that I'm a journalist and I'm a vegan. You're a journalist and you're a vegan. But she was not a vegan journalist. She was a journalist who was not pre-vegan, I'd call her. She tasted the pork. Then she tasted the vegan pork. And she said, I literally cannot tell the difference. And I feel like when China, which is the biggest pork consumer, pig consumer, gets that and they switch over, which they really need to do because there's a swine flu pandemic brewing in China right now. Swine flu has been discovered again in China, this time in China, and it's jumped from the pigs to people. The question is, will it go from people to people? But we could have another pandemic that could be even deadlier. So this is the time. These are zoonotic diseases jumping from animals to humans to get those animals off the plate. For so many reasons. The slaughterhouse workers are getting sick and dying of COVID-19. There's concerns about if everybody's got COVID and they're sweating onto the food. If some of these slaughterhouse workers have COVID, it's going onto the food. Is it in the packaging? There was just a complaint filed by Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine about that. This is a time to transition and have fun. And have fun with it, because there's only about 6 animals we kill and eat, and there's tens of thousands of fruits and vegetables, nuts and grains, and you can have so much fun with it. I'm trying things that I haven't tried, like barley and farro, and all sorts of things that are that, let's say, Eastern European grains, kasha. I've been looking for that, but I haven't found it. So, Donny, I was going to do my coronavirus concoction. You want to check it out?
I'm all ears and eyes.
Okay, I take no responsibility for this. I'm not suggesting that this is in any way something you should do. Consult with your doctor or your psychic or whoever. But what I am saying is that I have been taking this. So I put things in mason jars because they're pretty and I like them. So I have moringa, okay? There it is, moringa. It's a green superfood packed with iron and all sorts of things. I also do powdered ginger. Okay, there's the powdered ginger. I take a nice big scoop of that. By the way, I'm double dipping because I did this every morning with my vitamins, and I take B12 as a vegan. Now, before people say, "Oh my God, there's something wrong with being vegan because you have to take a vitamin." Vitamins are a multi-billion-dollar business, and 99.9999999% of the people taking them are not vegan. So everybody should take B12. The soil has been robbed of a lot of its nutrients because of over-tilling, and so everybody needs to take, could use some supplements. Now this is maca, whatever they call it. It's a fabulous little superfood. I also put that in there. And my favorite, turmeric or turmeric. You say turmeric, I say turmeric, but whatever. So this turmeric happens to be from a veganic farm in Latin America. Look at this color. Look at this color. It is so intense. I put a nice big heaping teaspoon in there. And one of the things that I've learned, I just almost forgot it, pepper activates the turmeric. So if you want to activate the turmeric, put the pepper in. Okay, so now you've got my superfood concoction. I'm going to put a little water. And here we go. Toil, trouble, and bubble. It's, what do you think, Donnie? Hold on. I'm going to put this on what do you think?
I think I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
You've turned me on to these things before, and, I find that I feel, maybe it's a placebo effect, but I find that I feel better when I've tried your concoctions in the past.
I have this in the morning and I slug it down with my B12 and some niacin, which I take every day. And I'm telling you, it's like, hold on, let me drink it. I drink it in one slug. It's intense. I'm telling you, it's intense, but it's like a superfood concoction, and it just energizes me. And I feel like it's packed with antioxidants and anti-inflammatories, which are good protections during this time. And hopefully we'll get through this time. And I will continue to take this because it's really, it does something to me. I don't know. I just feel like bing is how I would describe it. So, Donnie, anything else you'd like to tell us about all your incredible activism?
Well, you mentioned that COVID-19 happened because of it's a zoonotic disease and it was transferred from animals to humans. Right now, there's a big group of activists in New York who are fighting day and night to shut down the live animal markets right here in New York City. Can you imagine if a disease jumps from one of the many species of animals in that market? What happens is you have these markets where all of these animals of different species are in cages in very close quarters. If their viruses commingle and mutate into something more lethal and then jump to humans, which is what happened with COVID-19, it would spread like wildfire in New York City. So there are activists who are working on this issue. There are 2 state lawmakers who recently introduced legislation to shut down these live animal markets. There's a moratorium signed into law by Governor Cuomo a couple days ago to
I've got some photos. This is New York City, PETA undercover footage. This is a wildlife market in New York City. Look at look at it. You don't even need to say anything else. And believe it or not, people literally pick animals up and put them in a shopping cart and then they kill them. I mean, this is so medieval. How is this happening in the New Manhattan? Apparently there's more than 80 of them.
First of all, how is it happening in Manhattan post-COVID when the mainstream public is now starting to understand the connection between our interactions with these animals and zoonotic disease transmission? It's surreal that it still happens, but it goes to show the power of politics. Our elected officials often prioritize politics ahead of public health, and that's what we're seeing with these live animal markets, and also with Kaporos that's coming up.
Yeah, and you're very involved in that as well. Now, let me ask you a question. Prior to COVID, I know for years, I'm a native New Yorker. I grew up in Midtown Manhattan, although I live here in sunny LA now. And there have been years people have protested against these wet markets, and the powers that be kind of looked the other way and said, scram. And now, because of COVID, I think they're paying attention. There's proposed legislation. There's all sorts of things that are happening. I don't think they can afford to ignore it anymore because people are now worried about their own health.
Yeah, and there are people who live in the vicinity of these markets who are now seeing the blood and body parts in the streets, and they're looking at that through a different lens, through the lens of pandemic. All of our lives have been dramatically compromised, if not ended in many 160,000 cases, because of the way we treat animals. So many of the infectious diseases that we have faced in society are a result of the way we interact with animals. Ebola, SARS, MERS, bird flu, swine flu, COVID-19, the list goes on. And, in one of the live animal markets, a researcher took samples and sent it off to a lab and found H2N2, which was a virus that led to the death of over 1 million people during an H2N2 outbreak in the late 1950s. So it's just a matter of time before there's another outbreak. These markets are filthy. There's no reason why a virus wouldn't jump from animal to human and then from human to human. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We saw it happen with COVID-19 in China. There's no reason to think that it wouldn't happen right here in New York City. And we put our elected officials on notice because every day we are online and even in the street sometimes raising awareness of the presence of these live animal markets in New York City.
And tell us about the big victory you had mentioned earlier.
So a few days ago, Paragon Sports, which is really an iconic sporting goods store in New York City, it's like the size of a department store, announced that it would no longer be purchasing fur, that it was going to use up its current inventory and no longer sell fur. And this is a huge victory because Paragon Sports was a big seller of Canada Goose fur coats. There was an entire department dedicated to Canada Goose, but they had all kinds of other fur trim products at Paragon Sports too. And for 3 years, the local grassroots animal rights community led a campaign that became sort of increasingly more disruptive, that led to discussions with a very fair and kind store owner who, when we finally did get his attention, he sat down with Nathan, who wrote in before, and they over the course of several months had discussions, and he did the right thing. He made a commitment to stop selling fur.
That is huge. And I mean, with Michael Kors giving up fur, which I know you were also very involved in, and all the other designers, out here in LA, every year we do a march through Beverly Hills on Rodeo Drive. And I've been going live for Jane Unchained for years there. And what they do is they protest stores that still sell fur, and then they give awards to stores that have ceased to sell fur. Now, back in the day, maybe 5 years ago, it was mostly a protest and a couple of awards. Now, it's mostly awards with a couple of protests. And one of the places that we had protested, Neiman Marcus, which I always call needless markup, I believe they're going out. They're done. So do you think that with, for example, Tesla skyrocketing and of course uses vegan leather, that the whole culture is changing now and the whole days of fur and even leather are going bye-bye?
Well, I do think that car dealerships car manufacturers are shifting away from leather, in my experience in looking at cars. And I think that's great news. I don't know if they're doing it for ethical reasons. I'm not sure what their motive is, but that's a big change. Because years ago, when I was looking at cars, the non-leather alternatives were slimmer pickings. But I think it's because of ethical reasons that so many retailers and designers have ditched fur. And really, the biggest culprit now is Canada Goose, because so many people want to wear that, red badge of death on their shoulders, that status symbol. That coat is pervasive in New York City and other cold cities, I would imagine. And so Canada Goose continues to normalize the consumption of fur. And that's why they've been such a big target of the animal rights community in New York and Toronto and London and other cities around the world with Canada Goose stores. But I do think that we're making a lot of headway. And Canada Goose has made a pledge that they're not going to use any new fur. I think it's starting in 2021 or 2022. We're not exactly sure what that means, but they're feeling the heat. And I think that, I don't know, I hope it's just within a few years that we see a lot less fur than we do now.
It's really, I feel like society is truly going through a massive transformation. How we do everything is changing. Just did some interviews this morning on radio about the end of zoos. Will zoos be able to survive this pandemic, and why they should all send all their animals to sanctuaries or transition to be sanctuaries themselves. We know there have been some amazing sea mammals that have been transferred to outside of a tank now. You would call them bay sanctuaries, where they're living in a cove, and then eventually they get to reintegrate. So hopefully, well, we saw Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey went bye-bye with, animals performing these ridiculous stunts. Now COVID is hopefully going to have an impact on zoos and aquariums, that they are just a thing of the past. I'll just say this one last thing before we wrap up. Looking at a show that was on Amazon, and of course, Jane Unchained has some great shows on Amazon, New Day, New Chef, and New Day, New Chef Support and Feed. Vegans, please watch those shows and write a review. And it's in-studio cooking shows on TV for the first time, like really high quality in-studio vegan cooking shows that are an outgrowth of the Lunch Break Live we are doing here. I happened to be flipping through and watched this show from the Great Courses about the plague in the Middle Ages, the 14th century, which, by the way, lasted 6 years and then came back every decade or so. The final plague in Europe, I think, was 1669 or around that time. So these things can drag on. But what the professor said was it introduced the modern era. It spelled the beginning of the end of feudalism, where basically you had the nobles, the clergy, the serfs, the peasants, and a merchant class, and that was it. Never the twain shall meet. And after the pandemic, everything changed. So I think everything is changing today. I think we're going to see, to a large degree, the types of retail we've dealt with change. Obviously, everything's changing. Hopefully, the consumption of animals, this will spell the beginning of the end. People are seeing that workers are dying from COVID-19 in the slaughterhouses. Your desire to have a chicken wing is worth somebody having to go in there and die, a poor person. There's so many humanitarian reasons now to look at this toxic industry as a huge problem. I know even the New York Times is finally talking a little bit about it, talking about the kill floor, putting out articles like Jonathan Safran Foer's The End of Meat. Do you see that are you hopeful that we're finally going to have some change, Donnie, as we wrap up?
I am hopeful. I think, we can't forget that what was it, a year ago or so, that the Amazon was on fire. And thankfully the mainstream reported on the reason why. And I think people really do recognize that we need our rainforests to breathe. We need our oceans to be healthy to breathe. And with people like Greta Thunberg having a mainstream audience, I do feel like that change is happening.
I just think you're fabulous, Donnie. I miss you so much. So this was so fun. This was almost like getting to see you. Hopefully one day soon we'll be able to see each other in person, but who knows when.
I hope it's soon. Thank you, Jane.
Zoom. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.